Coming up today on Locked On at Texas Tech, pouncing on the portal, including a new addition for the Red Raiders, also psychological coping options for fans regarding an entry or an exit, and we get familiar with Berkeley Ball, which right now identifies as a team on a 3-game winning streak. Next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right.
Raider! Everything runs through Lubbock.
Great to see you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. And thanks as always to those making us their first listen on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. It's your team every day, always free and available. Great price. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase with the only Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan. And Chris, this has been Diesel's favorite time of year if he was a college sports fan, because we say fast and furiously over and over and over. And it was coming that way again yesterday as the transfer portal window opened and then pouncing began. We've already seen an addition for Texas Tech. We've seen some other names enter the portal for Texas Tech you may or may not be familiar with, but we'll get to the impact that will be felt as a result of that. And yes, we do actually want to discuss a game on today's episode as well. We'll begin to get into an introduction to the California Golden Bears. Chris, let's start, however, with some of what went down yesterday, because you're kicking some names my way as far as a couple of guys added to the portal. And, of course, as you see there on the screen, a tight end impact already felt, and that shopping will actually continue now. But what was happening there with Texas Tech football is you saw some entries, you saw some additions in day one, I guess.
Well, the first thing, we'll get into the Tech part, but the first thing, it still is a shock to the system when, like, Dylan Gabriel go into the portal. Like, he was the offensive player of the year in the Big 12, and I think he had a great season, 10-win season, and it's like, and I think what you gather is Oklahoma was kind of like, hey man, appreciate everything you've done. However, time to go, because they've got the young freshmen that they don't want to lose to the portal. Correct. This is similar to Tyler, so we can localize it. It's very similar to like Tyler Shuck and Baron Morton. Like, okay, do I want to hold on to what I think is the next thing? And he's got lots of years of eligibility, and then tell my proven guy or older guy, however flawed or whatever it may be, like, hey, you gotta go, man. I appreciate it, but thanks, man. It's so weird.
That is wild.
Ohio State's starting quarterback. I mean, they were what, 7th, I guess, in the CFP rankings, and he's, hey man, I'm out. Appreciate it, Buckeyes. And maybe they invited him to leave. Anyway, it's just, and there's a lot more than that. I'm just saying these are some high profile, and I see Tyler Shuck, and you see him associated with Central Florida. You see him associated with Louisville. Anyway, it's just kind of wild. But what we're about to get into here is the other side of the portal. So yesterday, lightly reported, under the radar, if you will, backup offensive lineman Seth Martin, backup defensive back Nate Floyd, both enter the portal. And what I mean by the other side is that this is there are many reasons that the transfer portal was put in place. And and what we've seen initially is like guys are like, hey man, I need to make more money, or I'm going to go where I can make the most money, or I want to go play, a larger role. I was already playing. I want to go play a larger role and be a star somewhere. I want to elevate from one division, to the next, whatever it may be. These are guys that I think are just simply wanting to play. Neither is a surprise at all. I don't think either of them were necessarily invited to leave. However, if the conversation comes down to, hey coach, man, just shoot me straight, man. Am I going to be able to play here? Man, no, you're not. I mean, that's kind of I think the way I'm gathering that probably went. So, but it continues to now. What are we at, Calvin? Are we at 8 or 9 now in the portal?
I'm going to say 9.
Yeah, I think that may be right. Yeah. First one on defense was Nate Floyd. Now, granted, there's a lot of youth there, so there's not everybody that was either redshirting or could play almost already was. But offensively, you've got a lot of young pieces on the way up, but some older guys bailed out. So
it's kind of an interesting psychological study. It's a psychological thing, to quote the great Lou Brown. To see the reaction to some of this on the offensive side of the football, Chris, you didn't have the offensive year you wanted to have, was one of the least productive, certainly passing wise, this millennium for Texas Tech. Meanwhile, you're trying to balance that with one of your most productive rushing outputs in a long, long time. So that's why I say it's interesting to kind of study the reaction here, because there's obviously some really good and then there's some really, really bad. And I see fans kind of taking it one of two ways, I guess, wherein, well, yeah, of course you'd have offensive guys bouncing because your offense was not good. You're trying to remodel or revamp the thing. But then you've got the other side as well that's saying, oh, are these guys bouncing because it's indicative of what they see the offense being or how they feel about offensive leadership? Does that make sense? I've seen this reaction in kind of two different ways. And maybe at the end of it, it just leads to the same place in that you're trying to search for answers. But do you take it more so to be, Texas Tech really trying to upgrade or revamp some things? Are you picking up any indication that there's like player disgruntlement on that side that is more than just an individual kind of disgruntlement? How do you kind of, I guess, interpret some of this reaction?
That's going to depend on who you ask. I mean, I think if you asked Baron Morton, Taj Brooks, Caleb Rogers, Xavier White, Coy Aiken, Caden Carr, that they would tell you, they would look at you and go, "What are you talking about? Disgruntlement?" And no, and I'll just make this statement, and this is going to hold true today. And it doesn't matter on what side of the ball it is. I firmly believe this. If there's ever a player that they do not want to lose, they won't. I mean, like, firmly, if they don't want to lose this guy, and that's the general feeling, whether it's, that they won't lose them. I'll leave that, and Joey's going to, hey, man, transparency, wish you well. What can we do to help? But there are things in place to, like, if it comes down to NIL and all that, then because it's different when you're already in your program. You can't use all this to, like, lure a guy and all that. That's not the way this is supposed to be set up. But when you have a player in your program, there are things in place that I don't believe in any way that if there's somebody they don't want to lose, that they will.
Gotcha. If you want to put the full court press on, you feel like you can be successful.
With whoever it is,
Gotcha.
And I'm sure that at some point there are limits to that, but no, I don't. I'll just say that you haven't lost anybody that you didn't want to lose, because I mean, you have to upgrade, you have to get faster. You have to get better up front. I mean, these are all the things that, you have to get better at, and you have to keep your quarterback healthy.
Yes.
We can, all the offensive gnashing of teeth. I mean, it just starts there. That's just the reality of it. People may get sick of hearing it. I'm sick of saying it. It's the truth. I mean, as we said, one college football program got kicked out of the CFP because their quarterback was hurt. I mean, the folks in charge of running the sport seem to think it's important too, but
and they're very smart, so obviously beyond reproach.
and they are not.
I think that's a great way to describe it, by the way, the folks running the sport, not leading the sport. I've seen so many complaints about college football leadership, and I'm like, buddy, you're missing the boat. There ain't no leadership. It's just various warring factions of self-interest. That's all this thing has ever been and will continue to be for some period of time. All right, let's get to an addition for Texas Tech. First, today's episode brought to you by Gametime, and you shouldn't have to sweat it out when buying tickets to your favorite events, and with Gametime, you won't, because it's always a breeze. Using the Gametime app, where you're going to find killer last-minute deals, views from every seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, and even an hour after it begins, which means Gametime is the place to find last-minute seats for any event. The fastest, easiest way to buy tickets, and not just fast, but it's also secure and simple to use when you download the Gametime app. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime by downloading the Gametime app, creating an account, and then use our code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. That's Locked On College, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use our promo code Locked On College for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today for last-minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed. All right, let's get to an addition for Texas Tech.
Yeah.
And this is one, Chris, that I was very interested to see. I knew that tight end was going to be high on the list of folks they were looking for or looking at. The addition comes in the form of a JUCO tight end named Alex Lines at a Garden City Community College. But the tight end shopping is not done. So I'd like to get your thoughts on Lines and I guess maybe why or how this has become a big-time priority. I know because of some of the guys that you see in your rear view now, but they also were not guys that had consistently, big impact throughout the years. So I guess I'm still kind of questioning, like, how does Zach Kitley like to use a tight end, or how largely can they factor in? So what do you make of it?
Well, the reality is that, again, Mason Tharp missed 5 games.
True. Yeah.
And I think Baylor Cup played through it wasn't like Baron Morton's shoulder injury, because this is an injury you could play through as a tight end, but he had it braced up and it wasn't it wasn't ideal for him. I'll just say that. Sure. And a big brace and kind of harness and all those things. And so that, unfortunately, is what that position dealt with. And then, then you obviously had Henry Teeter and Jaden York, both kind of former walk-on types and all those things. I think you would love to have more of a, because I think if Mason would have been healthy, I think that, we saw what he could do. But
both of their impacts were felt whenever they were.
Yep, that's right. That's right. And I think in the run game too. I think, yes, that Mason and Baylor deserve, and that's kind of why this position it's one of those that allows you to be versatile. It allows you to be kind of like, different personnel groups, and you can attack different things. And some of that is involved in the run game too. But so Baylor Cup, I think is gonna. I think he could play one more year, but I think he's just gonna move on to the next phase in life, is what I gather. And then obviously with Mason, and his injury history, it's just kind of this is probably 1A, or his offensive line is 1. This is 1A as far as like needs, because you just look up and like Teeter graduates. Baylor Cup's leaving. You were looking at Mason Tharp, your only scholarship tight end, again with his injury history, bit of a question mark. And then you have Jaden York, who you like, but he's just, again, maybe there's some limitations there, but I do like what he can do. And then Trey Jackson, who is I think from South Oak Cliff, that's a signee or will be a signee, but he weighs about 210, 215 pounds. This is a tight end you will grow up. He's not ready to come do what you're going to ask him to do right out of the gate. So enter Alex Lines into the chat, and you'll also enter a new teammate for Alex Lines at some point, hopefully soon, because you'll look to take at least 2, and Alex Lines is now one of them. So you'll take at least one more, maybe a third. We'll see. But Alex Lines has started out his career, I think, at University of Arizona. Started a handful of games there, over a season's worth. Then transferred to a junior college, was all conference. He's a physical blocker, has pass catching ability, big time wingspan. He was in over the weekend. And I think Mason was one of the hosts for him. But he's got 2 years left, and this is kind of what you're looking for. Multi-year guys that have proven, but I think he's about 6'4", 247-ish, somewhere around there. So But yeah, I think you'll look for a little bit more out of that position as we go on. But again, got to keep them healthy too, kind of like the QB.
Man, and you're right about, I kind of discount that sometime, but the tight end impact we saw in the ground game and some of the creative ways that we saw Coach Kitley and company come up with to involve them in the run blocking, and how obviously at various times that was clearly helping out the offensive line. And I think you just forget about that sometimes, thinking about them as pass catchers.
Yeah, I think too many times, we just solely focus on the catches that they make as opposed to all the other things, because this offensive line needed help at times. I think the tight end group was trying to give it, and it will continue to be that way as you completely rebuild your offensive line now.
Before we leave this portal transfer conversation and get into some Cal introduction, I just wonder how you feel about this. This is obviously broken. This thing is not working. All the unintended consequences, something will have to be adjusted, right? This is an ease of movement era. The players are oppressed. They need cash. They need to go wherever they want. Well, the coaches get to go. You guys have heard all the arguments ad nauseum, some rooted in some reality, some just rooted in bitching and moaning. The eligibility factor, in my opinion, is where the solution conversation has to begin. The immediate eligibility deal, I think, is what drives what you alluded to at the beginning of our conversation. Like, hey, we got to wave goodbye to the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year because we don't want to upset the incoming freshman. He might bounce, and then all of a sudden, boom, boom, boom. I'm not afraid of the transfer portal as a college sports fan or a college football fan, but what I do not like is the immediate eligibility part of it, especially within conference. Chris, do you think there's any chance that ever is adjusted or tinkered with again, or is this just the brave new world we're going to live in?
And in some of these cases, like Shuck being one of them, Dylan Gabriel being another, it's that they are, I think, grad transfers, which means that you have carte blanche, man. You can do whatever you want. You can be eligible immediately, leave and transfer. That's the one paint it with a broad brush eligibility thing that, like, you don't have to worry about anything.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
You've gotten a degree. You've already invested.
Yeah, that's
You've
right.
spent time here. I mean, I'm kind of okay with that.
And I do think they've tried to crack down. Like, and then everybody gets the freebie. Okay. Everybody gets the you can go once. Okay. But if you're, unless you're like Alex Lyons is an example of somebody that he was started out at Arizona, and I want to say maybe there was a UNLV stint there too. Don't get me to lying, but then he spins down, goes to JUCO, reestablishes his eligibility, and then it's like he can go wherever he wants, so he doesn't have to sit out a year. You follow me?
Oh, really? I didn't know you could kind of reset the.
Yeah, like if you there's. It's kind of confusing, but
that sounds like the guy on death row that medically died and then said, "Hey, I should be released because I already died once."
Yeah, that's right.
Heard that story? That was a real story.
You got me. Yeah,
that's right.
Even though I'm telling you that you got me, but I was,
he had like a medical episode before they hit the switch or something. Like, hey, bud, I'm already dead, and I came back, so I should be a free man. Makes sense to me.
I'm good to go.
No, but you know what I'm saying? I mean,
sir, we mean you're done. Like, you're not. No, yeah, we're
this round of college football free agency, I saw yesterday, has already set a new record for, I think, over 500 entries already here to this point in this window.
Oh, we have another 3 to 4 weeks to go. Right. I mean, this is because. Just because you didn't enter the portal initially, I mean, after the bowl game, there could be the next wave for a variety of teams. You could go, man, I don't bowl practices didn't really go well for me. Or man, these freshmen that are getting all these reps and practices, they're pretty good. I don't know if I'm going to get to play. Whatever your reasoning. So that's why it ends at the first of the year. They just shrunk it down from 6 weeks to 4 weeks because at some point, we gotta limit this deal. But yeah, the eligibility thing is bizarre because what you also still have is that COVID crap still floating around and that extra year and that sixth year and all that. And we're still not finished cycling through that where guys get an extra year and all that stuff. And so it's very confusing. But yeah, I think if you're outside the box, if you go somewhere and then you transfer somewhere, then that's where you're going to be. Okay. And then if you're a grad transfer, you get to go do whatever you want. Outside of those windows, man, you're right. I don't see, it's just not right. You gotta, at some point, we gotta, like, kids gotta stick with decisions, man.
Yeah.
You can't just, like, get frustrated and bail out, or keep seeking with your hand out, however you want to phrase it.
Right.
And I mean, I'm not talking to anybody specific, but we all see every day what all's going on with some of this stuff. I mean, so and at some point, does the money run out? Does the
motivation,
does the support, the financial support, or does the motivation for people, like, does that run out? I don't know, but right now it's pretty strong. And, like, if you want to be serious about it and compete, you better be serious about it with all aspects, or you're going to get left behind.
Good God. And we hadn't even thought about, while you're probably thinking about it, we hadn't even discussed all the stuff that still goes on under the table, behind the scenes. Or maybe NIL rid us of all of that, right? Like, it brought everybody to the light. I'm sure it just means more, folks. Okay, before we get out of here, Chris, let's actually look ahead to December 16th and the Cal Golden Bears. First, today's episode brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. And if you've got a small business looking to hire new employees, you're hoping for the biggest pool of top-tier candidates possible. And that's exactly why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn has all the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free, all on one easy-to-use and secure platform. And LinkedIn isn't just another job board. They've got a far-reaching network of more than 1 billion professionals, and hiring the best becomes easy when you have that many qualified candidates. So easy that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within only 24 hours. With all the hats you wear as a business owner, the time or resources to hire quality candidates can be hard to come by, but LinkedIn carries the load for you with the quick, easy, and intuitive process. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free today with LinkedIn Jobs. Terms and conditions apply. So let's actually look ahead to December 16th and the Cal Golden Bears. Hello. Nice to know you. Nice to meet you. Hadn't seen you before. All I know about you is your stadium is going to be broken in half by a fault line at some point in the future. And maybe that's why nobody shows up to the games. Everybody's terrified of falling into a sinkhole. I don't know. But we had some comments from some Cal Golden Bear fans that thought I was being as kind to them as anyone they've heard regarding some of their losses this year. I talked about the quality of some of the opponents they had fallen to, Chris. And I guess I'm just a little jaded by the fact that we got an L next to Wyoming on our schedule. And I didn't see something like that on their schedule, even though they got beat by Auburn early on in the year, but SEC team, whatever. But what is standing out to you, Chris, as we begin to turn our attention to Cal?
So, this was a program that was 3-6, and a team that was 3-6 at one point, and they have won 3 in a row to get to this point. It's the first bowl game in 4 years. They played in bowl games, I think, 2018 and 2019. Justin Wilcox has been there since 2017. He, ironically enough, has coached with Tim DeRuyter and Marcel Yates at various times during that tenure there that are now on the Texas Tech staff. Justin Wilcox was actually on the Cal staff. This is a true story back in 2004 when these teams played in the bowl game the first time. They have there's a couple things that are going on with them. One is Jake Spavital, was their offensive coordinator, play caller, and all that. He is no longer there. He took the job at Baylor, and so they have promoted Tim Plow, who coaches, I think, their tight ends. He's going to coach the QBs and call the plays, I gather, in the bowl game, but he's already taken the head job at UC Davis. So they lose 2 guys off of their offensive staff. One is no longer there. One is still going to remain there through the bowl game, which is a week and a half away. It's going to be here quickly. And so there's that dynamic. Their quarterback situation is a weird one because they have 3 quarterbacks that played in games. One of them is in the portal. One of them is hurt. It doesn't sound like he will be available for the bowl game. And the other one is Fernando Mendoza, who's the starter, but he was the third string guy to start the season out. So so they're not real sure, or we're not real sure who the backup quarterback will be for the bowl game. Fernando Mendoza, who's I think originally from Miami, is the starter, and just to I think kind of figuring this thing out and and all that stuff. But and then I think their backup running back Isaiah Infance is somebody that is not going to play in this bowl game, and so really it all points to just their identity being Jaden Ott, their stud running back, who's I think 7th in the country, and I averaged a few more yards, per game, I think, or slightly better yards per carry average than Taj Brooks is, I guess, what I meant to say. So maybe slightly more explosive, but no, he's a handful. But that's kind of so winning streak. There's a lot of connections there. And I was thinking about all the connections. Sonny Dykes is a connection to this game because Sonny Dykes coached your place for a long time, and then Sonny Dykes was the head coach at Cal previously. Davis Webb played for both of these teams as the starting quarterback, and I think obviously when he played for Cal, it was with Sonny. I was thinking about Cal's basketball program right now. Jalen Tyson and Fardaws, AMAC, both are sitting over there going, hey, we know that logo. Good luck, football guys. And the irony is that Jalen Tyson and Jerron Bradley were like best friends growing up or in high school. And yet Bradley won't play in this game. Yeah. So anyways, I was just trying to think of racking my brain of all the different Cal Texas Tech connections, whether it be current or past, and that's what I could come up with there. So there's my intro. But they'll be good.
I think I saw Cal had maybe 6 or 7 guys in the portal by this point in time, somewhere kind of in the same ballpark as you. One of them a former 4-star linebacker for whatever that's worth. But I'm just wondering, I don't know what Sonny Cumbie's doing December 16th. Can he just come stand on the sideline just to freak him out a little bit, or? He's
in Louisiana or resides there now. He's legendary in this game from that.
Yeah, let's get him out there.
Joe Filani. That was back in 2004, man. I mean, at the Holiday Bowl, all these halftime things for these bowl games or Big 12 title games. I don't know what you thought about the Nelly deal or if you even saw it.
I didn't.
My daughter was at this game and she was like, Dad, who is this guy? And I'm like, oh, no. Yeah, because, it was a different generation ago. Old Nelly was with a little Band-Aid underneath and all that. But at the Holiday Bowl, they basically were like, we were there for a few days before it. And they basically, like, the guys that put it on, they were like, man, we don't get into the whole halftime show thing. We believe in bands and fireworks. He's like, you should see our pyro budget.
All right.
And so that Holiday Bowl sits down in that kind of a, it's lower in the ground, I guess, compared to where there's some mountainous region around it. And that they just blew up everything, and that smoke just stayed right there. So that's what I always remember. It was like this hazy fog in that second half, and I'm thinking, like, am I really seeing what's going on here? Are you about to beat this Cal team with all these dudes over there and Aaron Rodgers? And no, sure enough, you did.
Yeah, I mean, Cal is so like supportive of bands. Sometimes they just integrate them into a football game. So they really take that stuff seriously out there.
Man, this is why Cowan is the GOAT, folks. That is what you call a professional. The band is out on the field.
How could we forget? How could we forget? Greatest Cal football memory of all time. All right, Chris, enjoyed it as always, man. Appreciate the insight, and make sure you're subscribed out there so we can continue to help you get familiar either with the Cal Golden Bears or maybe with some new names continuing to come across who will become Red Raiders during this portal season. Thanks, Chris. We'll do it again tomorrow.
Enjoyed it. Keep hope alive, everybody, and keep your head on that swivel.
We've got a game day episode coming up when we rejoin you next. So we'll have some hoops to talk tomorrow. We'll hear from Tech head coach Grant McCaslin as the Red Raiders are back at United Supermarkets Arena. So don't miss that. And never miss anything. Why would you even miss one? Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. For Chris, I'm Casey, and we'll see you for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.